Guitar soloing has become sort of a lost art in many circles over the past few decades. What was once a heartfelt expression of virtuosity that served as a mini song within a song had become something that bands started to steer away from. Fortunately, though, it looks like the guitar solo is being reclaimed. For a lot of players, being able to play a guitar solo was largely why we picked up the guitar in the first place. But it can be easy for many players to feel lost on how to approach writing a guitar solo intentionally. I recently submitted an entry for the Jared Dines Shred Collab 7 and figured I'd give you a peek behind the curtain on how I wrote that particular solo. Even if it's not your style per se, I know that learning someone's thought process on how a guitar solo was approached can give some sort of sense of direction for your own writing. It can expose you to certain concepts and ideas that you may have never learned before or that may have never crossed your mind. In this lesson, I'm going to share with you how a solo can be written intentionally from scratch. Stay tuned because on top of that, I'm going to be giving away a super sweet bonus that'll help give you some awesome guitar tones to complement the next solo that you write. So grab your axe, take a seat, and let's get ready to shred. So first thing we need to do is establish some sort of foundation with a setup. And I'm going to show you what I mean by this. So when approaching this contest, we are given the choice to either use an existing backing track or to make one of our own while maintaining the key of E minor that the provided backing track was already in. In this case, I elected to write to the backing track that was provided. I familiarized myself by listening to this backing track several times, and this allowed me to get used to the feel and to brainstorm what kind of solo I imagined myself playing over it. And what I did to further the setup was I plugged the backing track directly in Reaper. And Reaper is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a digital audio workstation. It's basically the Photoshop or the Microsoft Word of the music side of creativity. All right, so I've got my blank Reaper project here. I know that this track is in 200 beats per minute, so I'm gonna adjust that tempo here. I'm gonna insert the project. And let's take a listen to it. It's nice that Jared set us up with something that has a lot of thick atmosphere to it, because as I was listening to this, I could already start to hear some ideas of guitar leads that I could hear being played over it. From here, I am going to use a digital amp simulator for the guitar solo that I'm going to be playing. So I'm going to create a new track here. Select one of my favorite ones. I'm going to use the Amped Roots plugin by ML SoundLab, and I'm going to use the Guitar Hero lead preset. This is a nice tone option, I think, for writing solos because it has some delay. As you can see over here, we've got a delay pedal. We've also got some drive and a noise gate activated. And I think it's nice because it lets the leads kind of pop over whatever the backing track would be, even with something like this that has a lot of thick atmosphere to it. So before we continue, I do want to give away my super sweet bonus that I mentioned at the start of this video. It's my Elite Tones cheat sheet, And it's a completely free tool that gives you my best tips on how to dial in killer amp tones. So if you're someone who has a hard time getting your amp to sound good, this is definitely the tool for you. It also shows you how to make a digital amp simulator sound like an authentic physical amplifier. And it even has some direct links to some of my favorite free amp sims. I put the download link for that in the description so you can grab it there, or you can head over to my website at zachsharguitar.com. So now that we have a foundation where we have something that we're going to be soloing over to, we have it conveniently uploaded to our digital audio workstation, we've gained some familiarity with what this track sounds like. Now we can continue setting ourselves up for success by identifying the chord progression, okay? And for this, you kind of need to rely on your ears a little bit because we're not seeing what the chords are. We're not told what the chords are. So I did my best with this. This may not be 100% right, but this is just what I heard as I went through this. So what I did here when I listened to this is I had my guitar in my hands and I tried to identify what the chords were as I was listening to it. So the main chords, it sounds like, were, something in the E minor category, of course, given the key, something on the C major side of things, a little D major. What else? I think there's also a B minor chord somewhere in there. Yeah. So it's about 4 chords total. And as you can see, what I did was wherever a new chord was introduced, I used a marker to identify that in the Reaper project. So that way, as I'm putting my ideas down, I'm trying to come up with something and trying to come up with a way to be intentional with where to put certain phrases. I have the chords visually there in front of me. So that way I'm able to be more intentional, more thoughtful with this as I'm going through it. Because I think the more care you take in this and setting yourself up for success, the more you are actually composing something with a lot of thoughtfulness. And understanding the key, the rhythm, and the chord progression gives you pretty much all you need to know to play the leads over the backing track. And now that we have our foundation with the chord progression, we can identify what scales and even what arpeggios can be used and where in the backing track they would fit best. So we have a lot of wiggle room with this. We have so many different flavors that we can pull from and so many options to bring something of our own to life. And what I found was that you could use the E Aeolian mode or the E minor scale. You can use the C Lydian mode, the D Mixolydian mode, the B Phrygian mode, some blues scales, pentatonics, of course, and even a little bit of the chromatic scale. And what I did with this, with the markers that I have here, I kind of gave myself some placeholder ideas with what modes work best over the chord changes. So we start out, we could use E Aeolian for that. Then when it jumps to that C major chord, we can use some of the C Lydian mode. Then when it goes to D, we can use the D Mixolydian mode. And of course, a little bit later in the track, we've got a B minor chord from what I'm hearing. So we can use some B Phrygian if we want to. And, along the way, we can plug in some respective pentatonic and blues scales if we so choose. And I did end up doing a little bit of that in what I wrote, just because, it's kind of what brought me into the whole shred game to begin with. I really like, that bluesy type of, rock and roll type of stuff. So in addition to that, though, knowing the chords lets us incorporate some sweeping, and again, being intentional about this. It's, really, it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together, because we have, let's say, the E Aeolian mode, E minor, it's over an E minor chord. We can do an E minor arpeggio if we want to, for example. Then, C Lydian, we can use a C major arpeggio and sweep that into the equation. Mapping this out like this is really helpful because you can already kind of picture where your project is gonna go. And along the way too, you want to make this, you want to express yourself with this. You want this to be a piece of art. So with that, I like to keep dynamics and some rhythmic variation in mind. In this case, we have about 30 seconds to really put our fingerprint on this thing. So just having some sense of variety in this, because otherwise, even though it's only 30 seconds, it could get stale real quick if it's just a lot of monotonous, repetition of the same type of thing, the same patterns, that kind of thing. And from there, the solo just kind of came to life. I knew that since this was a shred contest, there would be some shreddy techniques that would work their way in somehow. The tapping, the sweep picking, speed picking, all that type of stuff have worked their way into this solo as techniques based on how I was already picturing the solo sounding as I was listening to it before I even started writing it. So I'm just going to break down what this whole solo looked like from start to finish and kind of explain what I'm doing and what I'm using along the way. So I start out with what is pretty much an E minor 7 arpeggio. So it's kind of, I use a picking sequence to kind of do that, bounce around the notes in that arpeggio. Then from there, I'm almost set up in sort of like this inversion, because I'm using the fifth as the root here, and the way I tap that, it kind of looks like a little bit of an inverted arpeggio, but I kind of bounce along some of the notes in the E minor scale. From there, I do a little bit of a sequence on the chord change that uses some of the C Lydian mode. Then I go up to the next chord change respectively and use the D Mixolydian mode. It's kind of similar to the phrase I used in the prior chord, but I want to add some variety here, so this is what it kind of looked like. Then, my little bluesy side comes out. I make that E note scream with a bend. Little double stop action in there. Gotta tap a note down. I'm not using my guitar with a whammy barb. I don't want to have some sort of dive bomb effect. So I do that by tapping a higher note on that B string. From there, I'm set up to do a C major arpeggio. And then I go up to a D major arpeggio, different shape, but still a major arpeggio over the D chord. I don't complete it on the descent, but that's because I want to set myself up for a pre-bend. Little bluesy sequence again. In this case, I'm actually using the way I'm looking at this, it's the fourth form of the A minor pentatonic scale. So I'm kind of hovering over that 12th position, emphasizing the E note, at least at the start, and then kind of slide up. And here's where, I try to pull from, it's kind of ripped off a little bit from Satchel of Steel Panther a little bit. I think it's that solo in Tiger Woods where it's just so emotional, where he kind of makes the notes sing along. Well, at least the way I approach this based on that is where I'm trying to make my notes sing along and ring out over the chord changes. From there, I just kind of do a little bit of a diatonic run. It's a pretty repetitive sequence, but it's just for a short burst. starting on D, ending on B. And then from there, you know, some more chord changes come in, but I decide to do a harmony, you know, a little dual guitar attack, just a little taste of it, where I start out on C before going up to D and kind of, you know, having a little bit of Lydian and Mixolydian flair over those chords. Then kind of sliding out of that with a little harmonic, kind of mimicking a dive bomb with a harmonic. Don't have my whammy bar. I was wanting to challenge myself with this. You know, I don't have the whammy bar. I have a fixed bridge, 21 frets. Let's see what I can do. And the harmony over that little pattern sounds like this. And from there, there's a pretty notable transition within the backing track, you know, rhythmically and such. So I decided to lean a little bit more into the pentatonics at that point and tap into the blues scale. And I decide to, from here, I was initially thinking of just doing a little 3-note per string minor scale sequence where I just kind of skip over the 7th scale degree. But I thought that sounded a little boring, as fun as it was to play up to speed. And I was kind of hearing something a little different anyway. So what I decided to do was kind of make up a 3-note per string pentatonic run with a little bit of blues influence. There's a blues note in there towards the end of it. And this is what it ended up sounding like. And then I just finish off with some tapping where I keep my fretting hand over, you know, the E minor pentatonic position, and I kind of tap along some of the notes that reflect the final chord changes of the backing track. And that's pretty much it. And here I can show you what the final product looked like up to speed over that backing track. So in a nutshell, writing a guitar solo first starts with an initial setup where we gain familiarity with what we will be soloing over. Then we identify the chord progression and the possible scales and arpeggios we can use. And from there, all your previous experiences come into play. It helps to approach the solo as a challenge to grow and express yourself artistically. This exercise can be a great opportunity for you to incorporate some more advanced techniques that you may currently be working on. And once you have the gist of what your solo will look and sound like, you'll likely find that you need to practice your own solo before nailing that perfect take to keep on record. Like other solos I've written, the need to practice my own composition is what I encountered with my Shred Collab 7 entry. So comment below and tell me 2 things. Let me know if you submitted an entry to the contest, and my question for you is, what is your biggest takeaway with this lesson? And don't forget to download my free Elite Tones cheat sheet if you have not done so already. It gives you my best tips on how to dial in killer amp tones and how to make digital amp simulators sound like authentic physical amplifiers. It even has some direct links to some of my favorite free amp sims. So just click the link in the description or go to zachsharguitar.com and download this awesome free resource. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Zach with Zach Shard Guitar. Keep shredding and God bless.